people moved here back in the late 1960s, the Summer of Love, of course, 1968. A lot of people moved to Seattle to start organic farms or, start a new style of life. So I'm here as an artist and musician and journalist doing the same thing with a lot of my friends, and we were all attracted to Seattle for usually creative or artistic reasons, and we're still here. And even though it's a lot more expensive now to live here and much more of a challenge, we're sticking with it because this is our city and the Northwest is our culture. It's a very unique culture.
This is the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield.
I've been criticized.
This is Mark Taylor-Canfield. I'm a journalist. I write at the Capitol Hill Times. I also blog at Daily Kos. I'm vice president of Democracy Watch News. And I also appear regularly on the Jeff Santos Show, broadcasting from Boston.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to report on Seattle culture because I think it's interesting, and there's a reason I moved here. It was for the music and for the people and the environment. So I'm reporting on it, and you can get a sense of it no matter where you live around the world. Wherever you're at, it's probably beautiful too in one way or another.
We don't have the time to sit this out. It's ticking now as I speak. So are y'all with me?
This is Mark Taylor-Canfield, and I'm reporting from Seattle, where thousands of people are getting ready to take to the streets as part of a community response to the election of Donald Trump.
Donald is pushed on something which is obviously uncomfortable, like what these women are saying. He immediately goes to denying responsibility. And it's not just about women. He never apologizes or says he's sorry for anything. That as we move in the last weeks of this campaign, more and more people will understand what's at stake in this election. It really does come down to what kind of country we are going to have.
So sad when she talks about violence at my rallies, and she caused the violence.
We're backstage at one of the local clubs here in Seattle, and I'm going to do this MTC report about what is it like to be in Seattle. What is it like to be a musician, an artist, a writer, a journalist in Seattle? So there are many things that you should know about Seattle. One of the things that you should know is that it's a city built on hills. That's right. There used to be an electric trolley system, much like San Francisco, that went up and down the hills in Seattle. There are 7 hills, much like the city of Rome. It was founded on 7 hills. And some of those hills happen to be Queen Anne Hill, Capitol Hill, First Hill, Cherry Hill, Beacon Hill. There are many hills in Seattle, okay? And you'll find that out once you get here. That's one of the problems is in the winter when there's ice on the streets. Nobody can get up those hills, so the roads basically close down and they become sledding affairs where people literally like take sleds up and down the hills on the streets instead of cars. So that's one of the things that we're famous for is our slow motion car crashes in the winter. So if you go on YouTube, you'll see the Seattle slow motion car crashes, and that has to do with the cars that slide backwards down the hills here on the ice. Because normally what happens is when it snows here in Seattle, the snow then melts, and at night when it gets cold again and chills out, then the ice freezes. So sometimes you'll have up to 2 inches of ice, pure ice, on the roads. And of course it rains a lot in Seattle. Everybody knows that. We get 9 months basically of cloudy skies, gray skies. So if you're okay with that, cool. The summer here is the most beautiful place I've ever been. So you get about 3 months of beautiful sunny weather, and everything is green, and the water's blue and the sky is blue. It's all gorgeous. And the mountains are amazing. The Olympic Peninsula, the Olympic Mountain Range, and the Cascade Mountain Range. It's all spectacular. Hood Canal, so many beautiful places. Ocean Shores, the Puget Sound. It's all beautiful in this part of the country. And if you want more of an arid desert kind of area, go to the east side of the Cascades. The Cascades, of course, have a lot of skiing, so you can find places like Alpental, great ski resorts up there, Snoqualmie, Mission Ridge. There's a lot of them up in the Cascades, just east of Seattle. So you're within a short distance of the ocean and the mountains at the same time. It's a great place. And the Olympic Peninsula is a wonderful place. And there are some great towns up there like Port Townsend and Port Angeles. Just across the water from Canada, actually, across the straits of Juan de Fuca. A lot of boats in Seattle, which I've mentioned before. But tonight we're actually at a club, and the band is just getting ready to play. So I'm going to sign off here for the moment, and we'll be back on the MTC Report. This is Mark Taylor-Canfield reporting from Seattle.
Says it's cracks on you. Well, I said my son's a baby, then maybe you're the fool. Well, I tried to make you happy, but you just let me down. I tried to do my best for you, but you just slept around. I gave you all my money, but you just wanted some more. I said I love you, honey, you just went to the door. Sold me down the river. Sold me down the river. You sold me down the river. Baby said you sold me down the river 'cause you don't want my loving anymore. You said you want me to stay home and help with the chores. I said, well, baby, I started to get bored. She took my favorite jacket and she chased my friends away. Now I'm here alone and alone. I guess I'll stay. I said, well, how'd you have to cheat me at it?
Don't go anywhere. The MTC Report with Mark Taylor-Canfield continues next.
Might be a little bit of Amsterdam for you. So, it's okay to be a freak in Seattle. Our political representatives are very progressive as well. This is a state where Bernie Sanders won every single county in the state during the Democratic primaries. So it's a Bernie-crat place. Progressive Democrats and independents and socialists. Shama Sawant is our city council member. She's world famous. She's originally from India, but she has become a firebrand for things like the $15 an hour minimum wage and rent control and all sorts of issues. She's a member of the Alternative Socialist Party, the Socialist Alternative Party, excuse me. So socialism is popular in this part of the country, and I'm not talking about Stalinist or Maoist types of communism or socialism. I'm talking about democratic socialism as is practiced in most of the European countries. That's Seattle style, folks. So music, art, independence, free-spirited bohemians have been living here for a long time. And this part of the country used to be a bunch of utopias that were so... We have a tradition of iconoclastic, bohemian, innovative, cutting-edge lifestyles. A good place for art and music, and writers, and journalism. Seattle is also known for its progressive politics, so you will see things in Seattle that maybe you won't see other places, like legalized recreational pot, marriage equality, the $15 an hour minimum wage. This is the, quote, left coast, the west coast of the United States, where people tend to be a little bit more liberal and progressive than the rest of the countries. And some of the richest men in the world, including Jeff Bezos, Paul Allen, Bill Gates, they're all hanging out here in Seattle. Boeing, Microsoft, Starbucks, you name it, Amazon is taking over most of the city, as I've reported before. These are high-tech companies and also biomed companies, and biomedical research is really big here. So a lot of techies, a lot of engineers and professionals are moving to Seattle from all over the world. And it's definitely changing the demographics here. You can see people in traditional dress from South Asia. You can see people from all over the world who hear accents and languages from almost everywhere, because people are moving here for the tech industry, and it's an international district.
I give you all my money, but you still wanted more. I said I love you, honey. You just wanted to the door. You wanted me to stay home and help you with the chores, and I said, baby, I think I'm getting bored. You took my favorite jacket, then you chased my friends away, and now I'm here all alone, and I'm alone. I guess I'll stay. Well, why'd you have to cheat me out of everything I own? You took my record collection and you kicked me out my home. So way down the river. That's right, I said you sold me down the river.
This is the MTC Report, the news behind the news, with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield.
I've been criticized saying that, let me say it again. I believe health is a right of all people. I will fight for a Medicare for all single-payer system. Second of all, right, you want to talk about rationing? You got 29 million people in this country who have no health insurance. How's that for rationing? They can't go without that.
Now here's a place you always meet a lot of friends.
Seattle is, of course, a great tech city with Amazon and Google, Microsoft, Boeing, aerospace industry here. So it's a highly educated population here. There's also a lot of universities. Seattle University is here. Washington, the University of Washington. And a lot of outlying schools. So people also know Seattle for this music scene, and that's part of where I come from, is the Seattle music scene. I moved here actually from Olympia and Tacoma after spending some time in Southern California because of the music scene. And Seattle is a great place to live if you're looking for music. So you can go to the Crocodile, which is a great club here. You can go to the Showbox, either the Showbox Sodo or the Showbox downtown. Has great shows. The longtime clubs like El Corazon, which used to be called the Off-Ramp, and Graceland. Legendary, where a lot of the grunge bands used to play. And supposedly Jimi Hendrix hung out, and Kurt Cobain and Janis Joplin as well. So a lot of historic clubs in Seattle, a lot of great music history here. There's also Heart, Jimi Hendrix. Besides the grunge scene, there's Sky Cries Mary and Macklemore and Sir Mix-a-Lot and all sorts of people who were part of the Seattle music scene who have been here for a while. And it's a very independent scene, so don't expect it to be like Los Angeles or New York City. It's very different. It's very eclectic, and there is no real scene in Seattle. It's just sort of what everybody happens to be doing this week. That's the way it is. So that's my quick little review of the Seattle music scene. So we're going to show you some more in this video, but here is part of the experience of living in Seattle.
Well, you sold me down the river 'cause you don't want my loving anymore. Well, you sold me down the river 'cause you don't want my loving anymore. I say you sold me down the river 'cause you don't want my loving anymore. Why'd you have to cheat me out of everything I own? You took my records and you kicked me out of my home. Baby, won't you take me back? I'm not so bad. Back up at your honey, I'm the best you ever had.
Seattle is also a very environmentally conscious sort of place, so don't be surprised if people encourage you to do your recycling and don't use plastic shopping bags and things like that. It's a very environmentally conscious sort of place. At least it tries to be. And our city council is very progressive as well, and has been accused of being quite lefty, by the conservatives around here. But look, as I've said before, the Republicans don't even have an office in Seattle, as far as I know. This is occupied territory as far as they're concerned. So, not going to find too many Trump supporters in the middle of downtown Seattle. That's just the way it is, folks. But don't be concerned that you always have to be politically correct in Seattle, even though that's the reputation here, because people are very independent-minded. If you have 5 people in the room, you're going to get 5 different opinions on things, including politics, religion, sex, everything else that people talk about these days. So, yes, Seattle people are very independent-minded, so do not be surprised about that. At the same time, it's also a part of the major corporate scene in the United States. I mean, we have some huge corporations here. Super hyped, of course, now that so many people are moving here. People love the environment, they like the culture. It's very open-minded and tolerant of many cultures and many different kinds of people. So that's Seattle. It's a very tolerant, independent kind of place. And that is the typical official phrase for what people call themselves here, Seattleites, right? Like a satellite, sort of. Which kind of goes back to the whole Space Needle sci-fi theme of the World's Fair that helped create this, the image of the city in the eyes of the rest of the world back in 1962. So yes, and Boeing, aerospace industry, their work with NASA especially. There's been a lot of interesting things going on in this city, and Seattle has a tradition of bohemianism and rebelliousness. And actually, if you read the book Sons of the Prophets, which is Profits, Prophets, by a local journalist here, you will find out that the Madams and the cat house industry had quite a bit to do with, had a lot to do with the history of funding Seattle, and also the Yukon Gold Rush. Now we have the IT Gold Rush, which is just as intense in terms of the amount of money and the number of people that are moving into the area. It's just like the Yukon Gold Rush in Alaska. But, you know, that's how Seattle made its name originally, was the Yukon Gold Rush, is outfitting miners headed to Alaska. And now we are tech central. So come to Seattle if you want to get a software engineering job, right?
Donald is pushed on something.
When you lost your way, you're casting shadows on us. That is your new play. We love the creepy manners and your pillow ghosty eyes. To turn this into toads would be your own surprise. Ow. The vampire princess, take me to your lair.
And this is Mark Taylor-Canfield reporting from Seattle on the MTC Report, my independent journalism, art and culture video blog. So I've written at Huffington Post and I blog at Daily Kos. I'm a guest at the Jeff Santos Show, broadcasting from Boston on the Revolution Radio Network. So, you know, just put my name in a search engine, you'll find all sorts of things, including over 340 uploaded original videos. I actually spend a lot of time in the desert in the southwestern United States, in Utah, Nevada, Southern California. So I'm also used to the dry areas of the country, and I enjoy the desert. I think the deserts are beautiful and magical places. But so is the rainforest in the Pacific Northwest, and there's a whole culture around mycology and Native American traditions. I actually went to the Evergreen State College, which is a very famous liberal arts school in the Pacific Northwest, located outside of Olympia, Washington, which is our state capital of Washington State. And yeah, it was known as a hippie college, basically, and it was founded back in the early 1970s as an alternative school, but also has been voted the best liberal arts college west of the Mississippi. So hey, it's a great school, it's got a great reputation, and I'm glad I went there. But the Evergreen State College, or Greeners as we're called, have also had a big influence on Northwest culture. So has the cannabis culture. You know, people have been smoking marijuana here for many, many years. It's been an accepted part of Seattle culture. The Seattle City Council years ago instructed the Seattle Police Department to make the enforcement of marijuana laws the lowest law enforcement priority in the city, which means that if somebody's illegally parked and somebody over there is smoking a joint, they're going to find the car and leave the guy with the joint alone, or girl with the joint alone. That's Seattle. And actually, Norm Stamper, our ex-chief of police, is the president, I believe, of the retired police chiefs for legalization of marijuana. And then also, you know, another famous guy, Gil Kurlikowski, was our chief of police for a while. He became Obama's drug czar, which is a title which I question. You know, drug czar, that just sounds really weird. But anyway, he went from being Seattle's chief of police to being the Obama administration's head of their drug division. So anyway, this is Mark Taylor-Canfield reporting from Seattle, and I'm getting ready to do some music, so I want to plug in my guitars and make some noise.